Memory carved in stone. Marko Miljanov Museum. For the purpose of preservation and affirmation of the Montenegrin cultural heritage, on the 23rd of October 1971, exactly 95 years after the tribe of Kuci were liberated from the Turkish authority, the Marko Miljanov Museum was officially opened on Medun. Located on the hill above Medunsko Polje, where the traces of peoples and times have intertwined for centuries, the museum keeps the memory of a military leader, hero, and writer Marko Miljanov Popović, 1833 to 1901. Here, among the stone walls, there is conveyed a testimony not only about one man, but about one people and time when morality was the law and the word was stronger than a bullet. Museum display is divided into thematic units that depict the three personas of Marko Miljanov: as a householder, through everyday items from traditional Montenegrin home; as a warrior, through a collection of weapons and military insignia; as a writer, through manuscripts and editions he had bequeathed. A visit to this museum means a meeting with heritage that binds and inspires as well. In the time of quick changes and omnipresent oblivion, the museum on Medun stands like a quiet light that reminds us that the true greatness lies not in power, but in integrity and devotion to the good of others. Marko Miljanov, the saber and the pen of one time. Born in the village of Medun, in the heart of the tribe of Kuci, Marko Miljanov Popović was a military reader and a writer who devoted his life to fighting for freedom and to cultivating moral values of the Montenegrin people. He gained his military glory in many conflicts against Turks, and during the Montenegrin-Turkish War from 1876 to 1878, he was particularly distinguished. In those conflicts, he led his tribe and won important victories. The most significant one among them was the Battle of Fundina that took place on the 14th of August, 1876. Although weaker in number and armament, the Montenegrins won a significant triumph thanks to decisiveness of well-planned tactics. In the following years, Marko withdrew from the battlefield and devoted himself to state affairs. Prince Nikola entrusted him with the management of Podgorica and taking care of its peace and security. Marko Miljanov fought for people, but he did not accept the conditions of the court regime, which caused a conflict and his exit from the politics. He became literate in his 50s with the intent to keep the history and wisdom of his people through the written word. His works became a permanent part of the cultural heritage of Montenegro, enriched literature, and facilitated future generations in comprehending the wealth of the past times. The life and tradition of the tribe of Kuci from an ethnographic perspective. Through its carefully formed ethnologic display, the museum on Medun not only evokes the life of Kuci at the time, but also testifies on the wealth of diversity that adorns this area. The displayed folk costumes of the Montenegrins and Albanians from the highland and rocky area discover the story of tradition, pride, and craftsmanship. Made from natural materials like wool, linen, silk, and leather, they are decorated with a meticulous hand embroidery and traditional jewelry, which makes them true artistic gems. Memory, identity, and the power of unity were woven into every thread. We would like to attract your attention to the hearth, which was the heart of every household. It served together families, make important decisions, convey stories and values. as a symbol of home and family unity, hearth stays permanent reminder of the way of life that shaped Marko Miljanov and generations of his contemporaries. There are also various tools for agriculture and animal breeding, which had been an indispensable part of a local man's life. In addition to that, there are displayed items for everyday use. Such as vessels from clay and copper, wooden benches and cases, tools for weaving and spinning. They provide the visitors with the insights in the family life, crafts and culture of the past times. Among the valuable ethnographic items from the personal legacy of Marko Miljanov, silverware holds a special place, being the gift from the Imperial Russia. Religious exhibits like the icon of St. Nicholas, lamps and utensils for the Holy Sacrament of Communion tell about the power of faith that gave hope and protection. This collection reminds us how important it is to preserve tradition and convey to the future generations as a precious value and a source of strength. The stories of Medun from the historical collection. Historical collection of the Marko Miljanov Museum keeps the memory of the difficult times of the fight for freedom and, through the stories of the famous people, reminds on the relevance of honor and valor. The displayed saber and revolver of the famous military leader among the scimitars and guns of his faithful comrades in arms testify about the military skills, personal valor, and war tradition of the Montenegrin people. There are also displayed exhibits of Turkish weapons seized in these fields, which additionally empowers the story of defense and strategic resourcefulness of the Montenegrin warrior. Marko's notes and letters reveal not only the historical events, but also the inner world of a man who loved his people and fought for its freedom. The collection of photographs and portraits includes rare and valuable portrayals of Marko Miljanov in different stages of his life, as a military leader, father, and philosopher. On the photographs alongside him, there were also noted the faces of those who trotted the same paths, his comrades in arms, friends, and people he belonged to. The military decorations are a especially valuable segment of the historical collection. Those were awarded to the prominent fellow fighters of Marko Miljanov by the Montenegrin and foreign rulers. In that way, there is glorified not only him as an individual, but also his comrades in arms, people who shared the same burden and responsibility. The Battle of Fundina. Freedom written in heroism. The Battle of Fundina, led on the 14th of August 1876, was remembered as the key victory in the long-standing fight of the Montenegrin people against the Ottoman Empire. Although the Ottomans outnumbered the Montenegrins with around 20,000 soldiers against a few thousand, the Montenegrin army took advantage of the inaccessible mountain terrain to oppose successfully. Setting ambushes and fighting in the familiar environment, they managed to inflict heavy losses to their enemy and to keep their positions. The Marko Miljanov Museum on Medun cherishes the memory of that magnificent victory through a rich collection of authentic items, photographs, personal belongings of the actors, tactical maps and documents which, along with educational content, illuminate both military and social relevance of the battle. Photographs of the leaders of the Battle of Fundina, Božo Petrović, Ilija Plamenac, Marko Miljanov, and many other distinguished warriors make an invaluable visual document of the historical moment. The photograph of Mahmud Pasha Magyar, Turkish commander who led the Ottoman troops in the Battle of Fundina, holds a special place. Military maps showing the troop deployments, attack and defense directions, specific topographic traits of the terrain of Fundina and the wider area around Medun are particularly important. There are also documents created immediately after the battle, providing authentic testimony about its cause. In that way, it is ensured that the spirit of freedom and heroism woven in the victory are preserved for the future generations. The harmony of words and views. Literary and artistic corner of the Marko Miljanov Museum on Medun. Literary and artistic corner of the Marko Miljanov Museum on Medun presents one of the institution's most inspiring rooms. It goes beyond the classical museum frames of displaying exhibits and becomes the place where word and image, history and aesthetics, reality and inspiration meet. In that corner, carefully designed combination of Marko's written word and visual interpretation of his personality and the world he belonged to provides the visitor with a deep cultural, emotional and spiritual experience. Marko Miljanov was not only a military reader and a political figure. He was a writer of people's ethics, a self-taught chronicle of one time, and a keeper of moral principles that shaped Montenegro and the life of its tribes of his time. In the setup of the literary and artistic environment, the visitor can be introduced to his works. The best known among them are Examples of Humanity and Valor, Life and Customs of Albanians, and The Tribe of Kuchi in the Folk Tales and Songs. His manuscripts and early books are displayed in the space that leads the visitor not only in the world of letters, but also in the world of values that those letters convey: humanity, integrity, morality, and respect of others. In that very corner of the museum, the word of Marko Miljanov is complemented with the artistic works of local authors inspired with his work and life. The artistic expressions thus become the extension of the word, a look that speaks, a form that testifies.